Thank you, Mr. Parthisarthi, for your warm introduction and a very warm good evening. It's literally warm to all my friends here, both young and old. Because this wonderful subject of dash, as I conceived it, developing attitudes for success and happiness, I think it concerns one and all of us, cutting across the barriers of age or experience. Let me start, friends, sharing with you one of my very favorite stories, which I have compiled in my edited book, Inspirational Gems. I would like to start with this because I want to drive home a small point, which I think should be the starting point, as they say, set the ball rolling for the day. The story goes about a rich farmer who always thought that wealth and riches were of paramount importance in this world, and wanting to impress upon his son the importance of material prosperity, he decided to take his son on a trip to the countryside with the object that he could show his son how the poor people live. He wanted to show off how wealthy we are and how poor these people are living in the countryside. They spent a day and night in the farm of a very poor family. When they got back, the father was all set to ask his son, thinking that the son would have realized what poverty is. And he said, "My son, how was the trip?" And the son said, "Dad, that was fine." "Did you see how the poor people can be?" And he said, "Yes." And the father asked, "What did you see?" And the son answered, "I saw that we have one dog, a German Shepherd at home, and they have 4, because moving on the streets. We have a pool that is 100 meters long, and they have a stream that has no end. We have 50 imported lamps in our garden. They have countless shining stars, because that is where they sleep. Our terrace reaches to the front yard, and they have a whole horizon above them." Now this was quite unexpected. And when the little boy was finishing, the father was almost speechless. But the climax was when the son concluded, "Thanks, Dad, for showing me how poor we are." Now, those of us who dwell in this fool's paradise, thinking that riches alone, material prosperity alone is success and happiness, I think we need to take a second thought after hearing this story. Friends, let me ask you, particularly I am delighted to have these youngsters always in these motivating sessions. Let me ask one of our young friends, how would you define success? If I were to ask you, young lady, what would you say is the definition of success? Okay. So her concept of success is doing the best. right? Any other answers, friends? Yes? What about our young friend there? Yes, in the green shirt? Yes? He's checking whether it's really green or red. Huh? It's green. He's stepping over the failures. Yes, I think you were about to say something while you were checking your shirt. Mm-hmm. To become a good man. And what about you, young lady? You must be satisfied with the work that you are doing. We can have umpteen definitions of success because every definition would have its own subjective perception, right? But if I were to put it in simple terms, can I say that success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal? Why I'm using the term progressive realization? Because can you say that success stops anywhere? Were you successful and that was the end of it when you got a rank at your HSC examination? That was indeed success, but that was not the end of it. So very rightly said that success is in the journey and not the destination. See, across the journey of your life, there are all milestones of success. And therefore, I think success should be best looked at. It is the progressive realization of a worthy goal. Or you can say that real success is accepting your God-given opportunities and giving your divinely inspired goals 100% of your best efforts. I think that is the common thing that came up in what so many of you said. So ultimately, it is achieving one's chosen goals. To put in simple terms, success is achieving one's chosen goals. The goals that you have aspired for, that you have really worked hard for, whatever they may be. It is the favorable outcome of our endeavor. It is the realization of what we hold dear to our hearts. Right? And therefore, success is perhaps socially objective. The society says, well, a person is successful if he has fame, if he has fortune, if he has power. But then they are the very objective parameters. Socially, it's objective. But personally, it is subjective. For me, my success benchmark or my success parameters have to be defined by myself. And have you not seen when we come across people whom the society considers to be successful, but personally they feel so miserable? Is it not true? That is so. And therefore, you have to have your own benchmarks. You have to have your own standards, your parameters. Because for a politician, success may be attainment of power. For an entrepreneur, it may be amassing wealth. For an artist, achieving fame. For a family man, it may be raising responsible kids. The mother feels that she is successful, and when the children are successful, that is her success for her. For an athlete, it is breaking all previous records. For a scientist, I think you said, the invention or discovery of something new. And don't you think it would also mean success to a person where he realizes, his realization is that everything in terms of the material prosperity that he has is useless, and therefore when he renunciates the world, that is success to him. For Buddha, when he left everything behind, the whole kingdom, and he went in search of something great, that was success. For him, success was not his kingdom. So sometimes even renunciation or sacrifice may be success. So we have to understand, friends, that before we talk about developing the attitudes for success, what exactly success is. And therefore, somebody has also very nicely said that success is being able to look up to yourself in the mirror. We always look at ourselves in the mirror and be proud of the person you have become. Right? When I look at the mirror, the world may be putting accolades on me, but if my conscience is always biting me, I'm not at comfort with my own self. I would hardly say I'm successful. Right? Therefore, friends, success, please understand, is not just in winning or losing. Sometimes, even in losing, there is success. Because if in that losing, if in that failure, you have made a stepping stone for yourself, for your future achievements, for your future success, that failure is also success. I don't know whether any one of you has read a book by John Maxwell. He's a very eminent, motivating author. And he has written a wonderful book called Failing Forward. A very interesting term. See, generally you think that if you fail, you always are where you are or you move back. But he talks about failing forward. In a highly motivating book, he dispels all these myths about success. Many people have wrong notions. And therefore, friends, don't think that if you have lost, it is not success. Sometimes, as I said, and many a times, if you take the right lesson from your failure, it is indeed a great success. And therefore, there's a lovely little couplet that before God's footstool to confess, a poor soul knelt and bowed his head. I failed, he cried. But then the Master, the Lord Almighty said, thou didst thy best, and that is success. If you have put in 100% of your efforts in what you have done, and that is what the philosophy of Gita is. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. If you have done your karma, 100% you have put in pursuing your worthy goal, that's enough, friends. You can be satisfied. Satisfaction was what you said. This was a little bit about success. Now let's come to happiness. Happiness. Mr. Parthasarathi, in his opening remarks, literally stole my words and put it very nicely, that where lies the happiness? Where? Do you all agree with the statement that he made, that happiness is within and not without? Is it true or not? Just think about it, friends. Happiness is nothing but a state of mind. It is a state of mind. Otherwise, how can you come across a person who has everything one would expect to have in life, and still he is the most miserable man? And how do you come across? Sometimes I am amazed. You are 12 o'clock in the night, you're on the road, and sleeping on that wooden cart is a man almost in a Mahatma Gandhi kind of a dress, because there's only one loin cloth over him. No cushions, no pillows, and just sleeping on that wooden plank. You watch his facial expressions and you think it's bliss incarnation within him. He has all the happiness in this world imbibed in him. Please, 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 always remember this, that happiness is within. Happiness is a state of mind. It is an attitude. It is an attitude of life. We are coming to more attitudes. And therefore, if anybody is saying that I am unhappy, I would say, well, Mr. or Miss so-and-so, if you are unhappy, you are 100% responsible for that. And you say, oh, how am I responsible for my unhappiness? That fellow is so rude to me, my daddy and mummy are always shouting at me, my friends are, criticizing me, they are mocking at me. But wait a minute. Wait a minute. Have you not heard that golden statement of eternal truth? And I want every one of you to write it, not just on a piece of paper, inscribe it in your minds and hearts. And what is that one-liner, which I think none of us must ever forget? And that is, no one can make you unhappy without your consent. I repeat, no one, there is no one in this world who can make you unhappy or who can take away your happiness without your consent. If you say, well, I want to be unhappy, of course, all the unhappiness is there at your doorsteps. But, as I'll come to this, that happiness is an attitude. And I'll take you to this importance of attitude. If you develop the right attitude, friends, happiness will never or can never ever leave you. It will always be with you. Maybe there may be those temporary moments. After all, we are all human beings. We are sensitive. It's fine. They say that you must be sensible and not too sensitive. But it's fine, it's okay. We are all emotional. We are all influenced by feelings, emotions. So we come across disturbances. But if you have the right attitude, you can always balance your ship even amidst the most turbulent waters of life. You can always do that. And the choice is yours, friends. The choice is yours. And therefore, it has been very rightly said that until you are happy with who you are, you will never be happy because of what you have. Just try to understand this. You see, are we happy because of what we have? Never. You may be happy because you are having 1 million, because that is what you wanted. And that is why you got it, and therefore you are happy. But there is a person who has 100 million and still he is not happy. And there are people who are happy with 1 million, and there are people who are happy with nothing at all with them. So the happiness does not lie in the object. The happiness lies in the subject. That is you. This is what we have to understand. So until you are happy with who you are, see, I am not talking of complacency. I am not talking that one should not have ambitions in life. One should not have goals for achieving things in life. Of course, it's just fine. I would expect every young man to have the mission and vision of becoming a millionaire. Why not? Yes, have your goal, have your ambition, and that is where you should pursue and persevere. But just because you are not having that, you are unhappy, is not the formula. Madam, you can come and sit here. If anybody is standing, there are a couple of seats here in the front. Just come and make yourself comfortable, or make yourself happy. Okay? Now, friends, again, you have to understand what I talked about success is also true with happiness, that happiness lies in the journey and not in the destination. You cannot postpone happiness, or happiness cannot be a target. Okay, I am going to get, maybe you can say, oh, I'll get a PhD after 5 years, because it takes 5 years to get a PhD. But if somebody says, I'll become happy after 5 years, my friends, you are mistaken. Happiness is now. Happiness is today. Happiness is every day of your life. Happiness is in the journey. It is not in the destination. If you think that you'll be happy after you finish your college, you think that I'll be happy after I get married, if you think I'll be happy after I get a good job, if you think I'll be happy after I get a promotion, I'll be happy after, I get a big house, I'll be happy after I have children and they grow up and their marriage takes place and I become a dada or nana, or I'll be happy after I retire. Friends, you are just postponing. It's like, you are going for a mirage. Think of happiness today, this moment, every single moment of your life. Because if you remember that happiness is because of what you are and not what you have, then it will never elude you. See, my most precious possession is with me. It's like the Kasturi Mrug. We all have heard about it. It lies within. But then, you go on here, there, yonder, wandering around, thinking that it's somewhere out. And therefore, friends, this myth about happiness has to be broken. And it has been very well said that people are just about as happy as they make up their minds to be. You are just as happy as you make up your minds to be. Many a times, people think that there are two words, similar sounding words. There is a word happiness, which I am sure you all understand, because it's an inner feeling, true joy, bliss. But then there is something what we call as pleasure. And people think that happiness can be attained only by enjoying certain pleasures of life. Well, let me tell you, you have to understand this, that fun or pleasure is what we experience during an act. Something happens, you watch a great movie and for a few moments, those 2-3 hours, you get the pleasure. You have a glass of beer, a few moments, that intoxication gives you that pleasure. But they are all short-lived. Pleasures don't always last long. So therefore, not that you should not enjoy pleasures, friends. Pleasures also have a place in life. But if you think that only going for pleasures is happiness, you are sadly mistaken. Please understand that fun or pleasure is what we experience during an act. And therefore, it will evaporate, it will vanish when that act or that situation or that circumstances are over. But happiness is what we experience even after that. It is a much deeper, more abiding emotion. This is what you have to understand. People may not like to accept it, But just think about it. Many a times in your life, have you not come across situations when you have experienced pain, when you have given sacrifices, but still you have derived perhaps the greatest of the happiness in life? Just think of it. So, happiness is not necessarily gaining or getting. In fact, as it has been very rightly said, perhaps greater happiness lies in giving. And greater happiness or true happiness is derived from giving. You know, the satisfaction or the joy that you get when you give. You know, I have a lovely quote which I want to share with you. If we make a living, then we get something, and therefore it is said we make a living by what we get. You understand? Living, livelihood. We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give. If you understand this, this is something great, friends. You just make a living by getting money, by getting this, that, etc. You're making a living. But the life, the joy, the happiness, you know, the real bliss comes when you are able to do something for others, when you are able to give. And I have perhaps shared this law on this forum before, but you know, I am a lawman, as I was introduced, and therefore I like to talk about laws. And today, basically, friends, we are going to talk about laws and strategies. You know, that's going to be all my subject of discussion today, ultimately for our master goal of success and happiness. There is what I call as the universal law of giving. The universal law of giving, which I have also compiled in my book, and very beautifully said. I think so many of you might even be able to rise up and say that you have practiced it in your life with perfection, with results. The law says, whatever you give for the good of others, whatever you give for the good of others, be it time, love, or money, God keeps on returning to you in much greater abundance. If those of you who have not tried this out, just do that, friends. I am talking from my own life experience, and I am sure so many of you might be able to rise and say, if you do good to others, the law of nature, the universal law of giving, but you don't have to do it like a Marwadi, you know, calculating, કે ભાઈ મને તને આપ્યો છે આ તો 18% સૂદ સાથે પાછો લેવાનો. No. You have to give selflessly. Only then you will get results. Selflessly. And if you give time for others, if you give love to others, and money, friends, those who have been charitable, somehow the law of nature is money is always by their side. You know, it comes in the language of arithmetic, you know, it multiplies. In geometric progression, you know, if the correct word is there. It just comes in leaps and bounds. But you have to give selflessly and without expectation. And maybe sometimes you may not get, but if there is no expectation, you know, again, when does unhappiness arise? Because I expect something from you and I don't get in return. That is the root cause of unhappiness. So the best way to give is without expecting anything in return. And if you have no expectancy in return of what you give, friends, there will never be unhappiness. And leave it to this law of nature and try it out. You will get. You will get. See, it is said there are two kinds of people in this world. There are givers and there are takers. Right? There are givers and takers. And it's very well said that the takers eat well. Those who keep on taking, they keep on eating. The takers eat well, but the givers sleep well. Perhaps if you go on a flashback or on retrospect, of some of the best sleeps that you may have got in your life, you will realize that they were those days when you had done something good for others. And the sheer joy and satisfaction that you got, from having given, it will give you perhaps the soundest sleep. Soundest sleep. But if you're all the time worried about taking, then you are in trouble. So, there is another law, friends, linked with this. Let me talk about it now. There is what I call as the law of relationships. The law of relationships. Or you can call it as the law of connection. A peculiar chemistry between relationships and connections. See, many a times we think that we are so great, so powerful, so influential, so wealthy, and therefore everybody must come to us. But then the minister does not realize that the people around him are moving around because he is a minister, not because he is he. Kursi ke aage piche ghumte hain. The bureaucrat. The day the bureaucrat has to retire, he thinks that is the worst day of his life. Why? क्योंकि कल से सब साहब कहना छोड़ देंगे. कुर्सी से डरते हैं सब. And therefore the salam is to the kursi, not to him. Of course, there are people who would get the true salutes also. If they have been true to themselves, they would be missed. But many a times you think that you are very powerful, or people have great respect for your power or wealth or fame or fortune. You are mistaken. What they are not adoring is not any personal quality of yours, because you don't have any, but they are just the outer shell around you, and that shell cannot be everlasting. The day you are in difficulty, all friends gone. So the test of true friends, as they say, is when you are in difficulty. But then it is also very rightly said that people don't care how much you know. You think, oh, you are very knowledgeable, and therefore everybody must come to you and respect you and talk to you. No, people don't care. They care two hoots, I would say. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care for them. It's only when I am concerned about you, that you will have a reciprocal feeling for me. And this is the law of relationships, friends. We always want a one-way traffic, unfortunately. A father or mother thinks that the children must always give respect and regard, but without realizing that you don't get anything by demanding. You really get something by deserving. And to deserve, you have to come up to that level. So if I am not interested in you, why the hell would you be interested in me? Therefore, please understand that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And who are the best leaders? I'm sure many of you would like to be leaders of tomorrow, the youngsters here. Who are the best leaders? They say those who can really make the best use of the head and the heart. In what manner? To lead yourself, use your head. A leader must always use his head, not his heart, because otherwise he can get carried away. He has to lead himself by his head, but lead others by his heart. I would be able to really make you accept my commands if I am able to enjoy that regard or esteem from your heart. Only then. So lead by your head. But if you have to lead others, use your heart. And it is very rightly said. After all, when do you get a hand? Only when you touch a heart. When do you get a helping hand? Only when you touch a heart. So, leaders touch a heart before they ask for a hand. Only, you see, for some people we are prepared to do anything. Why? Is it not so? There are some people will say, anything I'll do for you, anything karega. Why? Because you really love and admire that person, and therefore you are prepared to do anything for that person. And for somebody else whom you hate, you will, even if that fellow is prepared to give you something, you say, nah, baba, durre, ago saro. So, you have to use all these qualities of the head, heart and hand for these laws of giving and relationships. How? Remember this, friends. The qualities of the head you should use for understanding people. In the law of relationships, use your head to understand the people. Use your heart to love them, to love the people. And use your hand to help the people. So if you use your head, heart and hand in the right manner, friends, you will be one of the richest person in terms of relationships. And this law of giving and this law of relationships has such a wonderful thing, let me tell you, in your life, it can work wonders. Friends, I was talking about happiness. Now, I started with 2 little laws, but I want to revolve around what I would call as 5 important strategies. My whole talk today, I've already shared with you 2 laws. I'm going to share 5 strategies, and there are again 2 more laws. So it is 5 strategies and 4 laws. Well, that's how I'm trying to put it across. In our theme, in our center theme of dash. So having understood and appreciated what is success and happiness, having understood these 2 little laws, which take you on the highway to happiness, let us take some of these strategies which are extremely important in developing these right attitudes. The first and foremost is what I call as mastering self-confidence. Mastering self-confidence. Some people like to use this as developing self-esteem. Your self-confidence or self-esteem. Friends, this is the key to success and happiness. If I have to put it as the number 1 factor, it is the key. And when I'm talking of this self-esteem or self-confidence, I'm talking of the right attitude that you have towards your own self. Now, it has been very scientifically said, friends, and just if you think of it, this is perhaps one of the most scientifically logical statements of truth. That is, you attract thoughts, people, and experiences which are congruent with how you think and feel. You attract thoughts, people, and experiences which are congruent. You understand the language of geometry, it has to match with how you think and feel. And the other statement is, you cannot consistently perform in a manner that is inconsistent with the way you see yourself. Let me give you perhaps an illustration in the most simple way that you will be able to understand and appreciate, particularly my young friends. Do you think that if our Sachin Tendulkar or Virendra Sehwag, when they are going for the opening in the one-day international, they have that thoughts embedded in their mind कि साला आज तो सुबह घर से निकला, वो सामने बिलाड़ी ने चक्कर काटा, today is a very bad day, I'll go out in a duck. If you go on the field with this thought embedded within you, what are the chances? अट्ठे गट्ठे पछी બે ચાર છગ્ગા વાગી જાય જુદી વસ્તુ, but what are the chances of my performance if I go on the field, Tendulkar or Sehwag is asking himself, with this mindset. I want to use this word mindset, because mindset is perhaps the most important thing for your success. They say that success begins in a person's mind. It begins with his thoughts. It's not complete. Just because you think success, you are going to get success. I think you are living in a utopian world if you think that. But one thing for sure, that it has to begin with your mind. As they say, only if you can dream it, you can do it. Mr. Patsati was referring to this great building. Let me share this vision, This building, it's difficult for you to believe, but came up only in 10 months' time with a budget of about 4 crores of rupees. And when we started this, nobody had a ghost of an idea from where we would raise the resources and how we would be able to handle the challenges of time management and quality management in making our dream come true. But it all started during my tenure when I gave a slogan to my team, our team rather, saying that we have a vision for a new mission. The vision was that here is a new mission. AMA should have the pride of its own big building. We said we want to make Ahmedabad the management capital of India. And this thought came up when, we had gone to Bangalore the year before. We had the All India Management Convention. And at that convention, the Bangaloreites were proudly acclaiming, Bangalore, the IT capital of India and all that. And, it went on repeatedly because, there were ministers there, so even they were to be pleased. So the compeer said that and the president said that, and in the vote of thanks it again came up. And I told my colleagues who were sitting there, well, if Bangalore is the IT capital, Ahmedabad has it the IIM, Ahmedabad has had Kasturbhai Lalbhai and Vikram Sarabhai, the greatest entrepreneurs. The Ahmedabadi and Gujarati community is known for their entrepreneurship and management skills, not only in India but all over the world. Why don't we take a dream to make Ahmedabad the management capital of India? And obviously, where will the capital be located? At this headquarters where all of you are sitting. That was a dream which we fueled with passion, fired with motivation. And as they say, all that we did, eat, drink, and sleep all the time, AMA, vision for the new mission. We used to come here midnight, 12 o'clock, the foundation was there deep, and we would get down on the steps and then take a candle and then look up there and then imagine, oh, here is going to be our AMA, the imposing AMA, it will come. And then, we used to have our patrons come here and we used to sell our dreams. There was no selfish cause. We used to tell our patrons that, well, we want you to be partners of our progress and therefore contribute. And let me tell you, friends, more than 100 institutions, contributed from 1 lakh to to 41 lakhs of rupees. And more than 500 individuals contributed more than 10,000 rupees for joining as patrons for this great cause. Because they saw the thrill, of our dream. And they said, yes, this is going to happen. Excitement, enthusiasm is so contagious. If I am excited, if the captain of the team is charged up, the whole team is charged up. If you are charged up, everybody around you is charged up. This is the way, friends. I was just giving an illustration. In fact, we are even proud, Mr. Parsati, today, the making of AMA, the coming up of AMA is a case study in management at the Indian Institute of Management. Thanks to some of the senior professors, they felt that we have a case study at home. You're talking of success cases and studies from all around the world. But all that I was trying to drive home is that, friends, the first strategy comes from the confidence within that you can do it. Martin Luther King saying, we shall overcome, hum honge kamyab. It's only when this spirit is within you. If you keep on saying, Mari Jawana, Hari Jawana, Khalas Sai Gawana, Dhoi Jawana, Dhoi Gaya, Ardha. Because your mind, and therefore, what happens when it's negative, the mindset is negative, everything negative gets attracted. And when I'm positive, everything positive comes around. Therefore, friends, please remember that this is the first and the most important thing. On mindset, I often give this small little example in many of my workshops. I tell young friends, any one of you, that okay, if I have to ask you that from this end of the wall to that end of the wall, if I place a 12-inch plank and ask you, okay, from here to there, you have to just run across. You'll say, I'll do it. If I invite you, friends, walking on a small 12-inch plank, a wooden plank, patio, from this end to that end, who would not do it in this auditorium? Everybody would do it, I know. I didn't want all of you to raise your hands. So none of you has raised. Everybody can do it. It's very simple and very clear. Yes, no problems? But I changed the scenario a little bit. What do I do? After the 9/11, the World Trade Center, WTC, is no more in the United States, and therefore the tallest buildings are the Petro Twin Towers in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. Okay? And there the distance between the two towers is almost similar, maybe a little more or less. That's fine. I take this 12-inch wooden plank and put it up on the top of one tower to the other. Yes? Then, my young friend, invite you. Who would volunteer? Please raise your hands. Well, you're raising your hands here, but by the time you reach, probably your goal is to go to Kuala Lumpur. Mukesh Patel will pay the tickets, so at least reach there, then we can change our minds, What is the problem, friends? The same act of walking across maybe 100 feet on a 12-inch wooden plank, right? But where lies the difference? Can you tell me where? The mindset, the fear of falling, the fear, fear management. Once I addressed this subject, fear management, and people were surprised. I said, yes, we need to manage our fears, because that is one of our deadliest enemies of life. From nowhere do these imaginary bhoots, come, and ghosts, they keep on bothering and pestering us, and they are fears. The mindset. And still, Friends, though all of us may shudder, there is one brethren community of ours who would have no problems unless, you try to give them a lot of description in detail, going from that to that end. Can you imagine who they would be? Right? The blind. The blind would have no problems if he is blind from his childhood, because he doesn't know where you have placed the plank, and he with his stick is just comfortable going and walking on that 12-inch plank. He can do it and we cannot do it. Why? Because he has no fear and we have the fear. People swim, people easily ride cycles, people do parachuting, but those who can't, what is the biggest problem with them apart from some physical handicaps that you may have? Because for certain activities, you need a minimum kind of a physical build or setup. But apart, if given two people to be equal, one can do it and the other can't, what is the single difference between them? That is, the single point difference is their mindset. And therefore, friends, the first, when I'm talking about self-confidence or self-esteem, is to have love and respect for your own self, to have the confidence that you can do it, to realize that success begins in your thoughts, it starts from your mind. If that is true, friends, more than half of your battle is won. Because, as Napoleon Hill has very rightly said, the only real limitations in your life are those that you impose on yourself. There is no other limitation on us except what we impose on ourselves. And therefore, there is a lovely quote I have here in my book which says, whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way you are right. Just think about it, friends. If you think you can, yes, you are right, because the very fact that you think you can, leads to all the probabilities that you will be able to do it. But if you think you can't, then also you are right, because your mindset is negative. Everything that you do, will be geared in that wrong direction, and therefore you will never be able to achieve. See, we are talking of self-confidence. We are not talking of overconfidence. There is a distinction. So let's not mix up. There are people who are overconfident, complacent. They think that they can do it, not realizing that they are living in a utopian world. So you have to be on ground realities, no doubt. But at the same time, it all starts with your confidence. And therefore, I always tell my young friends that please don't put any limitation on you. Don't put any limitation on you. Think that even sky is not the limit. People say sky is the limit. No. Even sky is not the limit. If there is anything above the sky, you can still achieve it. Why not? And no one can predict. Let me tell each and every of my young friends, no one can predict to what heights you can soar. Even you will not realize it until you spread your wings. Even you will not realize it until you spread your wings. Because many a times, it's only when you are there in the open sky, oh, I can do it, and then you start flying. But until you have, spread your wings, you think that, I'm sure you must all have learnt or heard about that lovely story, born to win, but conditioned to lose. That eagle's egg, it fell, an eagle was soaring up in the sky, and that egg fell in a chicken prairie farm. And that egg, since it fell there, everybody around were chicken, and this eagle also, who grew up, because he did not have or did not realize, and others also did not tell him that he was an eagle. And so he started living like a chicken. And chicks think that they can't fly. So he never tried, he never attempted. One day he saw a mighty eagle going across the sky, and he asked the other chicks, "Hey, who's that?" And the chick said, "Oh, that is the eagle. But we are all chicks.